learned from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then it feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in on August 10th, 2021, and the stock market was surprisingly cautious today. And I got 3 stacks that I'm looking at coming into tomorrow, but today was very interesting because we were green later in the day. We started off a little bit slow. Everything globally, there wasn't much, nothing bigger than about 1/3% of a move, but the move that we saw today was kind of revealing how the market is digesting that jobs report and then what we're getting for this week. You saw a lot of industries move, but the ones that outperformed and underperformed, as well as what happened with commodities, that showed a lot about how the market is feeling. So we got a lot to cover. I'm going to go over everything that happened today, what we got for the rest of the week, the company news and events, some of the earnings, and then everything as far as the plays and the plays that we made today. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes for open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free 99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/the-stock-market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watch list come to life. And yes, if you have really big palms, but like small fingers, and it's like it's a weird thing, then yeah, we are the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post or watch it below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything? Post them below and source that info. Shout out to Chad, baby. So right off the bat, today was all about the stimulus being pulled back. That's what some people are calling it. This is referred to the tapering with the Fed, and that's why the jobs report last week was so key. And we even got to hear from some Fed people today, but the logic is they're saying that they're seeing that substantial progress, that we've made progress towards the post-pandemic goal, and now they're going to start pulling back some of that QE and tapering off the bond. But that had some effect today, and that's what people were really worried about. But then on the other front there, you saw some of the virus fears kind of lingering, and you got to see that through some of the defensive stocks. Again, financials did good, as well as healthcare, which was dropping a little bit last week, and then some of the tech stocks and other names, they came down, but then mainly energy and commodities. This is what had a lot of eyeballs today, and that's what brings us here to our first pretty picture. This is gold. So a lot of people were asking about gold today. This came up a lot. Gold broke through a key support level, but the biggest thing people are looking at, one, does gold kind of come back to those lows that we saw in March and April? But now, two, the reason why some people are saying now this is related to the jobs report and that tapering, simply because if the jobs market is looking good and people are expecting that the recovery and progress has been made, protectionary assets like gold, it may not hold the same demand or the same hedge. So some people have liquidated, but it has been a very, very big move out of gold. That's what a lot of people were saying today. Had a lot of different eyeballs, but now even jumping back to oil and what you saw there, that has to do with the virus concerns and kind of the demand coming down. You got the China inflation number that came in a little bit higher. Their export number also did drop as well. And you even saw the vaccine stocks go up, but all of this is kind of pointing down to some of those virus fears lingering in the market. So there's been a lot of back and forth about it. People are even talking about what's going on here domestically. I think we'll have to wait on what's going to happen here. We will get a better idea of the situation overseas, but some people have even said the Delta impact is not quite felt too much yet in the United States. Keyword is yet. We will see how that plays out. But today was still near all-time highs. Things were pretty chill for the most part, but the industries that were lagging and leading, they said a lot. And even those vaccine stocks even led the NASDAQ and S&P to a degree. So definitely keep your eye out for commodities and some of these factors as we move forward with the week. You're going to be getting a lot of Fed speakers. So Raphael Bostic, he spoke today. He talked about a more aggressive taper and saying that we're actually closer and that they've made progress. So again, has to do with the tapering, but you're going to get more from the Fed this week, and just watch out for these industries that are kind of highlighting global demand. That will give you a better idea. But now, as far as more economic data, you are going to get this CPI on Wednesday, and that is going to be the key. It will have some effect on the tapering discussion, but more so this week, what the Fed members say is probably going to move it. And given the reaction that you're seeing with gold and now bonds following the jobs report, it looks like that's kind of already cautioning people towards this idea that they may talk about the real announcement of tapering in September, and then we see tapering by the end of the year. But coming into the CPI on Wednesday, the consensus is 5.3%. We talked about this yesterday, but as as more estimates started rolling in, it looks like the Bloomberg economic analysts, they are leaning towards a 5.5, and we talked about it a little bit on stream, and it seems like a lot of Chads think we might come in hot at 6% or higher. The last time we've ever reached a 6% year-over-year increase on the CPI was 1990, and the other time was 1970. So this is going to be a very interesting report because the CPI is already high. It's already been running hot. It relates to kind of what the Fed has been saying, but depending on what sort of miss or beat that we get relative to the consensus there, and if it does go to an elevated number like 6 or anything higher than that, that could have a lot of implications, and the real key is going to be seeing how market participants respond. So pretty straightforward week so far. Our work is definitely going to be cut out for us. It is a lot in the economic field, but make sure you're watching the industries because they are telling a big story. But now coming into the company news and events here, we got news after hours. Canadian Pac is considering raising their bid for KSU, and this has been a topic or a deal that's been discussed for a while. And what I would say, watch the options because we've talked about it and we've seen the options trade, and we pretty much said the only way those options go up is if there is a negotiation between the deals. So now that we're seeing that, I really want to watch that and then watch the travel stocks tomorrow. That's definitely going to weigh on there, and those travel stocks are related to kind of this whole demand trade. So watch out for that. But now speaking of demand, AMC kind of struggled, but they still beat their expectations on every level. Their revenue was about $100 million higher than expectations. They didn't lose as much as analysts were expecting, and that is even considering the fact that the reopening or the movies and people getting back into the theaters, that has came off to a slow start. But for the most part, you got a positive beat. Shout out to the apes. We will see how that plays out. We are still holding all of our shares with those covered calls, so that is good. So I really want to see how this one trades coming into tomorrow. Another piece of news, you might have seen it after hours with crypto dropping, but a change to the crypto provision in the infrastructure bill, it was blocked. So what they were trying to do and amend to that part of the bill was they wanted more narrower language to kind of separate the difference between miners and software developers, as opposed to taxing them the exact same way you would tax a traditional crypto investor. Now imagine having to report above $10,000, but you are a miner or you are minting coins or something of that nature. It kind of gets in the way and makes things difficult, kind of redundant to a degree. But the reason why the Republican Richard Shelby, he clapped it because the Democrats refused to take up his amendment on a $50 billion in additional military construction spending. And given the way they have to review these amendments, every senator needs to weigh in on it. So when it came time to kind of add these distinctions to the crypto bill, Mr. Shelby was not having it. They didn't show him love, so he's not showing love back. But at the end of the day, the crypto market got clapped a little bit, but overall it did trade good, so we'll see how that plays out. Another piece of news, the Pentagon said that they are looking to mandate the vaccine across the military and hopefully get everybody vaccinated in the military by September. So tying this into the vaccine stocks today, they have all been ripping. Again, that's even going to come up here on the plays, so that is a big piece of news. We'll see how that one plays out. Then BX, we mentioned this one yesterday, but the Canada industrial REITs, they gained after Blackstone made a deal for WPT. This came up, but infrastructure, industrial, real estate investments, those are kind of like the second leg now to the reopening trade, so definitely keep your eye on that. You are getting some movement with it just in the last 48 hours, so I do want to keep my eye on that. And then finally, more politics, Elizabeth Warren and Angus King, they introduced a bill after hours for a 7% tax on the book profits for corporations with earnings of $100 million or more. So the idea behind this is that some companies make a lot of money, but it's not necessarily taxable income because they'll make a profit, but then they'll write it off and they'll use a bunch of other things. So the taxable gain or taxable profit may even be a loss. So what they're saying is they want to tax these big companies 7% on just profits off the top before they are able to write off everything and go through that. And they're saying this is another way to pay for the infrastructure bill. So we'll see if that takes legs. And if it does, that might threaten some of these bigger companies a little bit more as far as taxing is concerned than it kind of has in the past with some of these other updates. So other than that, it was a very simple day, kind of slow, but you really got to see the work underneath the surface today. Again, most stocks were trading down, but you got a little bit of support in other ways. You got to see the bank stocks come up. You got to watch energy energy bring things down. The data is going to be important, and where we move from here, it's going to set us up for the rest of the month and the rest of the summer, so I hope you're ready. But that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 3 different stacks that I'm looking at coming into tomorrow. I do have plays on all of them, but just like the first play, I may want to double dip on the other 2. But the first one is Snapchat. We've talked about this. We're waiting for that delayed earnings continuation. It is holding up nice. It got some call sweeps today, and then it got a mention on CNBC by Mr. Nigerian after we made our play. So it's looking pretty decent. I decided to go for my second shot on there. Remember, I did do a weekly for about the same amount. I think I lost $280 on it. But coming into the play, I decided to go with the August 20th $85 calls. They closed up slightly above by close. I didn't think they had too much premium, but they kind of did because it got a lot of volatility, but they did not move too much. But I paid about 58 cents per share August 20th, a little further out. The calls that got a sweep, I believe, were the 83s, and there was 20,000 in volume on those today, so that was kind of interesting. But that is the first play. The second play, I didn't even think about it till today, even though we have it in the long term, but Overstock, it is kind of the forgotten crypto play. So they had good earnings in the last quarter about a week ago when they reported, but it kind of got dragged down with the overall e-commerce guidance. Most e-com stocks was not looking good after Amazon, so that kind of weighed on it. But now, after Robinhood and now Coinbase and now crypto coming back, Robinhood saying that crypto is their area of growth, Overstock falls right in there with their platform that they own. It will take a little bit more steam here, but if anything, I think they're lagging big, and it could be a good shorter-term swing. So we've played this one in the past. I'm still holding those leaps, and I still like it, but now tying it into the whole crypto thing and everything going on, they're pretty much at the same level. So last time it kind of was playing this game here, it's created a lot of opportunities. So if they don't dump below here, or it doesn't start to stall out, even selling premium may be good if that's the case, but this one has a lot of range in it. So depending on the premiums, this thing can move a lot. It might just be a good one to trade. So I'm going to be watching that one coming into tomorrow. And then finally tying this into the vaccine stocks, VXRT Vaxart. I am still holding this from when we got it back in 2020. We grabbed a couple of those small plays. Unfortunately, I thought Myrna and MVAX was already too expensive. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But there is still a lot of these other options out here, and pretty much if the hype keeps continuing and these start going one by one, some of these cheaper plays that are still in the game and haven't really got clapped and have some level of FDA approval and market share that they can take, these ones might go up. So that's why I like Vaxart, simply because we've held it for a while, but you've kind of seen how it could play out here on the chart. It's had about 2 or 3 of these different pops, and when it has gone crazy, it's gone really crazy. So it's just been holding up here. It's getting back to these higher levels, but it is still very cheap. So I'm still holding my shares. We did make these free, so my risk is definitely controlled on it. And you could even see here coming to the play, we got 200 shares at around $9, but these are a play that I made free. You could see here, June 29th, 2020, I bought 500 shares at $9.25 on that first run up when it popped to 16. About a month later or 2 weeks later, I sold 300 at $16.18, got my initial investment back plus $200, and then I get to hold these 2 shares, and you still see it's hanging up there. And kind of a year later now, we are still in the game if anything does in fact go crazy. So I want to see how that plays out, but those stocks went crazy, and those are going to be the main plays. As far as everything else, I want to watch that Snapchat. Disney, they have their earnings. I didn't check the options today, but one play that it reminds me of, it may wake up. I think I already have it on this one. Oh, I forgot to type it out here, but Walmart, I really, really like them. The premiums came up about 8% today, but it kind of moves the same. They're both 2 big companies. They're obviously trading at kind of opposites to the 100-day, but they're slow movers, a lot of eyes, a lot of big shareholders in it already. So I want to see how that one plays out. I just don't want to sleep on it, so keep your eye on them. Coinbase definitely shot up. We need that close above 280, but we did definitely get a clear close above 260. This is bringing it back to a key level. We went over some insider buys today. That was still looking nice. We'll see how that plays out, but a lot of people now are just looking to see what this does into earnings, and sadly, though, if it has this run up and they do bad, this is just going to provide the cushion to kind of let it bounce around here at the bottom. So I think this week is definitely going to be pivotal. AMC, they popped up a little bit after hours. They got a nice cushion running into the move. So even though they beat on everything, they kind of didn't go too crazy, but we will see how that plays tomorrow. Then Roblox, they really surprised out of nowhere today. This was a very, very big move. And again, we went over the insider buys. A lot of people are in at that $80 level, so this brings a lot of funds and people kind of back to break even. But if it starts to get above here, this is now trading on the higher end, and this was the most volume the stock has gotten in 6 weeks. So if it starts that run before its earnings next week, that could be a very, very good sign. And ironically, they kind of benefit on both sides here of the reopening trade, or even if we don't reopen, because again, you're having all these back and forth with the schools, depending on how the schools are playing. That's going to affect the Roblox, the younger demographic that's in there. And then now, if people are worried about lockdowns, anything like that, they're going to benefit. That's where they saw their most growth in activity. So keep your eye on them. Then I want to watch UWMC. We talked about this a little bit today. Saw Architave move up, but with how rates are moving and kind of the real estate numbers, you could even see Zillow and Compass. That is looking hot here. So coming into our long-term deposit, I got UWMC on the watch list with some of those other growth companies. So keep your eye on them. Then DraftKings, they did good today. They could have done a little bit better. They were getting a little active throughout the day, but they decided to buy GNOG, the Golden Nugget gaming company. So that was good for them. People liked it. It was an all-share deal, so they get to keep a lot of the cash that they have on hand, which DraftKings has a lot of. So that's good. It's coming off the heels of that acquisition of Score by Penn, so they're kind of keeping it neck and neck. But some people are saying here this was kind of a bad acquisition or comparative to Penn, simply because Penn is now getting into the Canadian gaming, and they're about to legalize the gaming, whereas DraftKings and even GNOG, they are both domestic, so it's kind of the same market. So that one was interesting, but watch them. Vaxart, like we said, Myrna had an epic run-up today. That was 17%. People have even asked if you'd want to get the puts. I think you could trade on this good, but you've seen this story before where a company goes really, really crazy on the upside. Even if you get puts, it does not mean you're going to make money instantly. You got to watch out for the break-evens and what they're pricing in. So watch that. Watch Datadog. They kind of dropped today. Really big, and then they came up. There was another company, I forgot which one it was, as a competitor. They did good, but those premiums that were up 200%, they're only up 30% now. So this move killed a lot of the premium. If we are going to see a continuation, it may be a good time to double dip, so I'm going to be watching that. Then I want to watch Square. They kind of came back today, but again, financials and that nature of some of the more defensive trade, they did good. I think their position nice. Our contracts are still up 300%. So compare that to Datadog and how that's played out. The premium died really quickly, but Square, that premium has been holding up, so that means there is still a lot of eyeballs on that. So watch them. And then Overstock, like we said, and Boeing, they did good. They lifted up the Dow a lot today. Those plays we had last week are still down. We bought into the news. It didn't quite hit, so we got some exposure, but probably not enough depending on how it plays out. But they were pretty active today. If this does keep going and it kind of does that earnings trend, you can kind of see it looks like a weaker Snapchat towards the bottom. It may be able to wake up, so we'll see. And then FSR, this is Fisker. They got updates and coverage, I believe, by Goldman, and I think they did good on their earnings. I even think there was a solar play that did good as well. But even like we talked about yesterday and throughout today, the EV market has shown a little bit of resilience in the middle of all this stuff. Tesla was even one of the leaders today, so we'll see how that plays out, but keep your eye on them. And then finally, TLT and the dollar. The bonds dropped, and even after the European close, this is kind of signaling that continuation of the taper in the data. You will probably definitely get a move on the bonds and maybe not the stock market based on the CPI. It all depends on the report, but like we've been talking about here, the dollar is key. If anything, the rates are not moving nearly as much as the dollar, and this is now where the next key comes into play. And that's what I was saying, the dollar may be stronger than some people are thinking right now, so there might be a weird little flip-flop here if that has to balance between the rates, because the answer would be a weakening dollar and higher rates. But for now, you got a stronger dollar, and then the rates are low, the dollar's getting stronger. We got to see how that plays out, but that's a little tip right there, so I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shine. I need you to remember, doesn't matter how much you worry, it won't add a second to your life. But the Cole loves you. I love you. I'm gonna see you in the morning. Let's go.